And we are live. Welcome to this week's episode of the Bullpen Cart, presented by ThunderblogSports.com. I, of course, am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell, joining me for the first time in a couple weeks. But as always, is my man, Greg the Prophet Piatelli. How are you, my friend?
I'm loving the college football and NFL pods that the Thunderblog Sports is also producing. You and Matty D kill it on those. I love big college football fans, so I'd like to see Syracuse get some love, especially their quarterback, since Syracuse is 2-0 and their quarterback has thrown about 15 touchdowns in 2 weeks. So it'd be nice to throw a mention over here and there, but I'll have to wait till next week's pod to see if they get a shout out.
All right. Well, submit in a fan question, and we'll be sure to answer it.
I'll
just
submit,
like you can.
I'll submit an anonymous fan question.
An anonymous? An anemone?
An anemone.
But anyway, let's talk baseball. We are starting to get into the home stretch for the regular season. I'm in my semifinals for fantasy. But we are, Greg, it's starting to shake out a little bit in the National League. The American League has looked like it's been a little pretty clear for the last couple of weeks, since getting even clearer with the Mariners really falling down on some hard times. But National League doing it as well. I mean, what have your thoughts been as we've entered September and everything's been going forward with them?
Some crazy surprises. The NL West really fallen off and fast, and the NL Central, a league that really you and I have been, I think we've been talking about it the least in terms of the three divisions in the National League, and we turn around and now the Cubs and Brewers have 83 and 82 wins respectively, and that's right up there. That's leading all of the National League, and again, you and I were sort of low on that division.
Can we talk about how, because you mentioned the NL West, can we talk about how the Tampa Bay Rays would be tied for the division lead if they were in the National League?
Yeah, and the Tampa Bay Rays don't look now, but I mean,
they're not mathematically eliminated.
8 games out of the wild card, and we got just over or less than a month. But I mean, you're right. It's everyone was talking about how the Red Sox, the Red Sox, Astros, and Cleveland have so many wins because the American League is so bad. But as you mentioned, Tampa Bay Rays, and they're out here, could be leading that NL West. So
yeah, are the Red Sox ruining baseball? Is that what I'm hearing you say, Greg?
I'm not saying it, but there are Boston sports reporters who are saying that the Red Sox have been sitting on easy street and mad at Dombrowski. The talk around Boston is that Dombrowski, when he had those Tigers teams, never built a bullpen that could win in the playoffs. So they are fearful that they did the same thing. He's the same thing here this year with this Red Sox team. And if this past weekend series with the Houston Astros taught us anything, they're not wrong, because to get an unbelievable performance from David Price and then blow it on Friday night, the opener, it stung. It really stung, because David Price has really been playing well recently, pitching well recently, especially because he got a cold start. So that first loss was tough, and then similar there for Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. They did a similar. Sort of gave it up with their bullpen, and then even Sunday, Porcello pitched really well, and he was up 5-1, came out of the game. Bullpen gave up 5-5, and they had to hit a walk-off to win Sunday night. So nervous, I would say, for the playoffs in terms of the Red Sox bullpen, but can't take away from what's been done this year. They've done this year so far. But Jordy, did you get to get a little quick recap of the Phillies, and then we'll hop into our standings?
Yeah, the Phillies still haven't won a series since the beginning of August. They were down in Washington and had some tough losses. They did win one game, and then they come out. They win Friday night against the Mets. A great win, great team win. And then they lose pretty badly Saturday. And Sunday, they were supposed to face Jacob deGrom. The weather, the Mets decided to not have Jacob deGrom pitch in a tropical storm. So they threw out some guy, and the Phillies lost to him. They lost 6-4. They lost another series. So they come home. They come home for a 9-game homestand before they go on their incredible road trip to end the season, or just about to end the season. They'll have one final home series, but yeah, it's a lot of missed opportunities because your Red Sox did the job against the Atlanta Braves in the middle of the week. So the Phillies could have really jumped up in the division, but the Braves, they're hanging in there in terms of that division lead, and the Phillies could be a lot better than 4.5 games out in the division and in the wild card.
Well, we've been saying it for 3 weeks, it seems like now. The Braves are playing 500 baseball, and the Phillies are playing one below it. So it's
well, 9 games under 500 since sweeping the the Miami Marlins in the first weekend of August. I read they're, I think, 11-20 since then. So they're 9 games under 500. They've gone from being pretty comfortably, or at least making me feel pretty comfortable about my over-under bet of 78.5 to now being 6 games above 500. And I'm not saying that I'm a little worried, but I'm a lot of worried that all they need to do is win 5 games and I win money. And they're slowly but surely getting there.
Yeah, and you and I discussed this. The Braves are asking the Phillies to take it, and I posed the question to you 2 weeks ago of if the Phillies don't make the playoffs, is this season considered a failure? Despite the fact they've outperformed everyone's predictions. You had an answer then. Is the answer the same now, or is it you had said yes, it was a failure? Is it different? Is your answer different now, or is it the same?
It'd be yes, just because of the fact that they were right there. But I mean, like your defense to it, and kind of my thought at the beginning of the season, I saw them as a round 500 team. It would just be a disappointment seeing where they were, to see them run out of gas seemingly so quickly from where they were on July 31st to where they are now on Monday, September 10th, being 6 games above 500. Their run differential is now -13. They're 11 games under 500 away from Citizens Bank Park. It just would be disappointing to see that. It would be a tough 500 record to take, even if they win, 82, 83, 84 games. They're a couple games above 500 and they miss the playoffs. It would be happy to see them finally reach that mark, but it would be tough to see, of all those teams that I constantly mention every single week, of the 05, 06 teams, the ones that got so close but no cigar to the playoffs. This would be the most painful, and a lot of their losses kind of that they've had this year add on to that. You have the Velasquez leaving second base early. You have all these different wacky plays that the Phillies have lost games on, and the terrible defense. So there's just a lot of disappointment that would be left that would be left in the air.
So that was my next question I wanted to pose to you, and it is centered around Gabe the Babe. Is because I know in football, coach calls the wrong play, you give up a touchdown, it's on the coach. Hockey, you have the wrong line out there or what have you. Baseball, you talk about defense, you talk about poor base running. How much is that on the coach, or how much is that on lack of baseball IQ for the base path, or just, are they not practicing defense enough, or are these guys they only brought them up because they're hitting? Like, how, is it on the coach, is it on the manager, or is it just players are going to be players no matter what?
Yeah, I don't know if it's strictly on Gabe. It could be on the coaching in general. It's tough because there's so many different ways that you can look at it, because you've seen the Phillies be one of the most unlucky teams in terms of using the shift in all of baseball, to now they more and more teams use it as frequently as the Phillies have, because analytics says so, and blah, blah, blah. The base running, though, I don't know where that stems from, because there's guys that it's a questionable call to begin with, because Velasquez, in terms of him leaving early, I can't really think of other times that he had. I need to see other numbers, and this was almost 2 weeks ago, so it's really leaving my head. But like Odubel Herrera's had some base running issues, and he's been a guy that for a long time was a leadoff hitter. He was a number 2 hitter. So in theory, he should know, and he's a center fielder by trade, he should have an idea from basically his entire baseball life of how to run the bases. So I don't know where the miscommunication's coming from, where these gaps in, these brain farts are coming from. But it's just been tough to see because it's just frustrating.
Yeah, and to that point, I feel as if managerially, base running is something that you can talk about with the team. Base running, your third base coach is telling a guy to go or not go. And how often do baseball teams do drills outside of spring training? Guys are expected to be able to field their position when they get to the majors. I know, guys will be out there during batting practice taking ground balls and stuff, or, they'll be doing different things defensively to get better. But a lot of times you'll see it, for example, Brandon Phillips, the Red Sox just called up. He is a natural third baseman, but he was taking ground balls at first, if they ever need him to play first. Or JD Martinez, similar, he's an outfielder, but he took balls at first, So for me, it's one of those things where, is it on the coaching staff for not putting guys in those positions, or is it on the GM for, the Red Sox have a guy in Jackie Bradley Jr. who's barely hits 200, but he's easily the best center fielder in terms of defensive plays, diving to balls and his range and his play at the wall. Easily the best in all of baseball, and yet he can't hit a lick, and he is an everyday player because of his defense. So, GM or managers, whose fault is it? I just wanted to get your opinion quickly because I love Gabe the Babe, obviously, and I want him to succeed.
No, for sure. And I think because you see Scott Kingery's played shortstop all year, but he was a second baseman coming through the ranks. So I don't know necessarily, did you just throw him to the Wolves at a completely different position that kind of screwed around with his head in terms of his batting, where he hasn't really been able to hit a lick a ton this season. There's been spurts, but not really consistently. And then he's a fairly good shortstop still defensively. He's a very good defensive player. At least he was in the minors. He won the Silver Glove, which is the Gold Glove, but for all of the minor leagues. So not just AAA, but AA, single A, blah, blah, blah. He won that as second base. So he has that skill. So maybe the Phillies saw that a couple years back with a guy named Darren Ruff, who was a first baseman. They moved him out into the outfield because they were still heavily invested both financially and just nostalgia-wise in Ryan Howard at first. So they moved him to the outfield, and he was never really the same player again. He wasn't in AAA. He wasn't when he finally got up to the Phillies. You haven't really seen that a ton out of Reese. You'd want, especially before he got hurt, Roman Quinn and Odubel Herrera and Nick Williams, who are all just track stars, basically. You might want to hope that you see that defense, but on the flip side of Reese can hit the shit out of the ball. He just hit his 30th home run yesterday. So there's the trade-off there. I don't want to say like throwing Carlos Santana around the different positions, because Carlos Santana is a good defensive player too, and he's been good when he's been put at third. I think there are just gaps. They're just brain farts, and I don't know if it's just the bright lights or what it is with how young this team is. I think they're the second youngest team in baseball, so maybe there's that too. But I don't know. It's tough. I don't think it's really Matt Klintak making any sort of wrong moves, because really he's been pretty conservative with what he's been doing in terms of building this team. I would argue the most aggressive thing he's done is signing Jake Arrieta in March. Yeah,
so I hear you, but the Red Sox and Yankees also have super young superstars in their team, and you don't necessarily see them making. I mean, Rafael Devers, we talked about his errors on defense.
Yeah.
All the time. So, you do see it. And obviously Gary Sanchez with the Yankees. So you do see errors from young guys in the field. So yeah, guess give him a pass. So Jordy, don't want to switch too much, but just received word that the Indians are going to activate Josh Donaldson from the DL this week. So there's been a lot of controversy surrounding him going to Cleveland from Toronto. Tell me why I should be mad as a Red Sox fan, and tell me why I should be concerned or march down to league offices and have this trade null and void.
So basically, it's not just the Red Sox, it's the Yankees, the Astros. Basically, every team in the or in the playoff hunt in the American League is upset with how the Indians acquired Josh Donaldson. For those that don't know, he has not played a game in baseball since late May. He's been on and off the DL. It was not on the DL when he got traded on August 31st, the last day that you can be traded to another team and be eligible for the playoffs, as we went over with a number of different players a couple weeks ago. So he's not injured. He gets traded to Cleveland, but Josh Donaldson was worried that he wasn't going to be ready and able to go. Now, why do we talk about this? Because during that waiver period and to be eligible to be put on waivers and to be traded, you need to be completely healthy and cleared by both the organization you belong to. So in this case, the Blue Jays, and by Major League Baseball. So Josh Donaldson not on the DL. The Blue Jays claim he's ready to go, but issued, quote, a buyer beware to every team that was interested in him. I think the Red Sox were included in that. A number of teams were. The Indians basically meet with the guy. They love him. They trade for him. And a day or two after they get him, they put him on the DL. So he didn't play a single game or anything like that. So what the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Astros are upset about is that the Indians traded for a guy who was probably hurt when he should technically not have been able to be traded. And why that's worrisome is that if he's completely healthy and looks like the guy that won the MVP 3 years ago, then he could be a complete game breaker in the playoffs. So I mean, really, this is assuming he does get back to that level, but I mean, but as you said, he's playing rehab starts now, and he's probably going to get activated later this week. So they'll have plenty of time to get him, playoff ready.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, even if he's not his MVP form, he's still a guy who can hit home runs. And
exactly,
all you need is one swing of the bat, especially in the playoffs with the 5-game series in the first round. So at the end of the day, Jordy, is anything going to come out of this?
It doesn't look like it. I mean, I don't know if teams are filing protests. I just read an article on Sports Illustrated within an hour before you and I hopped on, and it's 6:30 right now on the East Coast. So
even with a protest, though,
I don't know if they can reverse a trade.
Yeah, right. There's no chance.
I don't think you can do that.
All right. So you're saying I should be worried, and Cleveland's a bunch of cheaters. All right, sounds good.
Yeah, I mean they play the Astros first, so maybe if they play the Astros and then get a penalty, so maybe that's what you should hope for, unless the Red Sox really fuck it up and have to play him in the first round.
Hey, chill with that shit. They're like, chill. They're 9 games up in the window. All right, Jordy. Let's hop in. Hot teams. Let's start in the National League.
Okay.
Let's start in the league. We always said the American League. But let's start in the National League, the league that is still open in terms of playoffs, and who knows what's going to happen come down the stretch here.
Okay. You want me to go first?
Yeah, give me your hot team.
I got the Milwaukee Brewers.
Great choice, Jordy.
Who, on the heels of Cole Hamels asking if the rivalry with the Cubs was really a rivalry, come out and beat the Cubs 4-3 in their first game, 11-1, and then they lost the third game. But then they go and sweep the Giants. They sweep a team they need to go sweep. And now they're only 2 games back, the Chicago Cubs. And they're just clicking on all levels. They're winners of 8 of their last 10. They're all but in the playoffs. I mean, they're 2.5 games up on the Cardinals. So really the possibility of them falling out is still there. The Dodgers are right there. The Diamondbacks are right there. The Phillies are only 4.5 games back from the Cardinals. So there's still a lot of jumbledness within the race, but I mean, it may not even matter because they could catch up to the Cubs. They're playing them this week, and we could be seeing a new team on top in that division if the Cubs aren't careful.
I love that pick, Jordy, and especially because the Brewers, we talked about it at the jump, Cubs and Brewers, 2 best records in the National League, and kind of like almost like the Yankees, Red Sox, and in that the 2 best teams, and one of them has to be the wild card, so it's tough for them. But
it helps them too.
Well, they're playing well, but the big thing, Jordy, is they have a lot more losses than the Cubs. So
sure,
I mean, regardless of the Cubs playing 500 right now, I still have a feeling that they'll be able to hold on just because it sounds so simple, but they just can't lose. They don't, as long as they continue to win more than they lose, they'll be fine.
That's a nice little John Madden take from you there. What I was getting at is the Brewers and the Cubs being in the NL Central, and the Pirates have been hot as of late, but really it's still the Pirates, and you have to take that for what it is. But they play the Pirates, the Reds, the Pirates, the Cardinals, which will actually be a big series. And then they finish off with the Tigers for the rest of the season. The Cubbies, as the schedule loads up, they'll have similar. They're obviously playing the Brewers during this week. We mentioned that at the jump of this. They play a makeup game in Washington that was rained out over the weekend. So they'll have to go back to DC. Then they play the Reds, the Diamondbacks, then the White Sox, a very late crosstown rivalry game. Then they're home for the rest of the final 7 games of the season against the Pirates and then against the Cardinals, another big one. So the Cardinals are really going to have to claw their way into the playoffs if they want to really make an impact. But I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a really interesting run down the stretch for the NL Central, and I think that's going to be what you need to watch. And in terms of anything, if you're a Phillies fan, if you're a Dodgers fan, a Rockies fan, because they're only a game up on the Dodgers, a Diamondbacks fan, there's a lot to watch out on there.
Yeah, I love it. Tough schedule for them.
Yes.
And they have the starting pitching. They loaded up for a reason, right?
Yep.
So hopefully they can. I mean, they have the young bats, they have the talent, and hopefully their starting pitching can come through. Is Yu Darvish back?
No, Yu Darvish is out for the year.
Oh, did you just mention that?
Yeah, that was like a week ago.
That was on your last week pod?
At the very least last week. It might have even been a couple weeks ago.
No, you mentioned it on the podcast?
Yeah, it's been mentioned on the podcast before.
All right. My hot team of the week, Jordy, is the Colorado Rockies.
Good pick.
Thank you.
Got a compliment. Got to keep the compliments going.
They have won 6 of their last 8 games. 6 of the last 8. I repeat, 6 of the last 8 games. Swept the San Francisco Giants, effectively 100% knocking them out. Lost 2 out of 3 of the Dodgers at home, which is tough. However, they continue to hold on to first place in the West by a half a game because they have 1 less loss than the Dodgers. So they control their own fate. They control their own destiny right now. And the they're a hot team for me simply because they are just not producing runs. Their pitching is giving up too many runs, I think, for them to do anything in the playoffs. However, their offense is doing exceptionally well recently, scoring 7 runs, 9 runs, 6 runs, 5 runs, 4 runs, all 6 runs, all in their wins. So certainly a team that has been producing, like I said, 6 of the last 8. Huge week for them.
No, definitely a great point from you. And can we talk about how ESPN has the playoff percentages that they have, like the likelihood they'll make it? Theirs is only 48.4, and the Dodgers is 82.9. If the Rockies, if they really, if they pay attention to the scoreboards, which, side note, Johnny Miller kept saying that about Justin Rose today, and I don't know why these people think the pros are actually looking at scoreboards. They're not, but if they do, use this as motivation to go out, beat up the Arizona Diamondbacks at home. You got a 4-game series here. You play the Dodgers again next week, and then the Diamondbacks again. Then you have the Phillies, who are awful on the road for 4 games. So you got a lot of opportunities here, Rockies, to at least maybe not knock out, but knock off the Diamondbacks a little bit and stay in contention with the Dodgers. So, I really like that pick. And I mean, kind of to hammer home your point about their offense, Greg, they've let up the 2nd most runs in the national, or the 3rd most, in the National League. And their run differential is only -11, and they're still 14 games above 500. So, I mean, they're really pumping out runs when they absolutely need to, and they are staying hot, which they obviously need to do.
Yeah. And what's crazy to me is that the Diamondbacks were a team that were leading the West for, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So the fact that and the Rockies were in third is the fact the Rockies were able to jump and move up into that first place spot is it's really week to week right now in the NL West.
Yep.
So for me, it's a crapshoot of who can make it, and the percentages are for not. I think ESPN's always been high on the Dodgers, so it is what it is. But
No.
Jordy, cold team of the week. You know what? I kind of want to skip cold teams this week, but
You want to just skip them?
unless you got something good.
I mean, the Diamondbacks are in there. They've lost 7 of their last 10. You mentioned the Giants. They're effectively out at this point in the midst of an 8-game skid. So worth noting there. I mean, the Phillies we talked about a little bit. The Cubs are 5-5 in their last 10. So that's part of how the Brewers have been able to jump up. So a little bit of coldness from some teams that kind of need it, have had opportunities to get hot and kind of floundering a little bit. But
The Cubs had 2 games versus the Nationals rained out.
They had one that was postponed, and then it got finished yesterday, and the other game got completely washed out.
Interesting.
Yeah, very weird. I had friends that were in DC and they went on Saturday. Then the game got postponed to Sunday, so they went back Sunday, and I think they were allowed to stay for the next game, and they only got to see part of the baseball game. So, kind of a wet and washed out weekend down in the nation's capital.
Perfect. All right, hot team of the week, Jordy, American League.
Going with the Oakland Athletics. I'm going to go with them because you mentioned this all the time about how well they've done against the Red Sox. They took 2 or 3 from the Yankees last week in Oakland. We mentioned it, or at least I did on the solo pod, that's pretty crucial because they're only 2.5 games behind the Yankees for the 1 and 2 wild cards. If they can get that at home, or even if they go to Yankee Stadium, it looks like they're starting to get their number. And if they continue to stay this hot, I mean, their pitching staff, we don't talk about nearly enough. They've only let up 598 runs, which is only 18 more than the Yankees. It's only 39 more than the Red Sox. I mean, it's nowhere close to the Astros, but it's 18 more than the Indians. We talk about how awesome the Indians rotation is all the time. I mean, they've almost scored 700 runs. They've scored, again, their run differentials in triple digits. They've won 4 in a row. I mean, Greg, these guys, they have one of the best away records in baseball and one of the better ones at home in the American League. Your Red Sox being the tops there, but their away record of 41 and 28 is incredible.
Yeah, no, and they're a team that pitches really well, plays defense really well. I mean, you would think that they, without the superstars we talked about, but they hit home runs. They can beat you with the small ball. They quietly, their bullpen is out of this world. Quietly, they're getting close to surpassing the Yankees. And if I was New York, I mean, myself included, I would much rather play the Yankees in the first round than the Oakland Athletics. Yeah. So if that wild card, if that's the wild card 1 game elimination, I don't want to say I'm rooting for the Yankees, but part of me is rooting for the Yankees because I'd much rather face them than the Athletics. And careful what I wish for because Judge could be back by then. But sure. Great pick, Jordy.
Yeah, the one thing I would say to be a little concerned about is, and it's a good thing, they hit a lot of home runs, but they can sometimes be a little home run dependent. So that's, a give and take there, like any hard-hitting team. But they have Chris Davis, who has over 40 home runs. Matt Olson has 25. Stephen Piscotty has 23. Matt Chapman has 22, and he's been on fire recently. Jed Lowry has 21. So we'll see. We'll see how they go there. But definitely a lot of excitement. I mean, they also hit a ton of doubles at that ballpark that they play in. The O.co Coliseum is, I believe, what is their current sponsor is. Formerly Overstock.com.
So are they? Quick sidebar here. Are they, when the Raiders move, are they getting rid of their stadium?
I don't think they've come out with a decision yet. I think they were trying to, and I think they might stay in the Coliseum in like a very short term. with the idea of building a new stadium in Oakland. But I don't think they've come up with that in concrete yet.
I think the Coliseum is such an iconic stadium. I feel like they could just rework it to make it fit baseball better.
Yeah, like actually put in like stands and make it a little more fitting.
Yeah.
Athletic Stadium. I'm just gonna you give me your hot team of the week, and I'm gonna look up Athletic Stadium news.
So before I give my hot team of the week, I'm gonna give a quick shout out to the Tampa Bay Rays, who have won 8 of their last 9 games.
Yep.
And they are doing well and playing really well, and good on them. My hot team of the week has to be the Houston Astros, taking 2 out of 3 from the best team in baseball.
You want to walk through that series and sort of what you were thinking, or do you want to finish up on the Astros first?
Well, I talked about it a little bit. It's the Red Sox bullpen that blew it. Their starters, David Price, Friday night threw a gem, only gave up 1 run, and then their bullpen came in and blew it, and that was really a difference. And then same thing Saturday and Sunday, same thing as well, and the Red Sox headed a walk-off in order to win it. Top to bottom, the Astros lineup, just like the Red Sox lineup, everyone can hit, everyone can mash the ball, and even with Altuve not really swinging the bat really well right now, just because he's still 10 days removed from coming off the disabled list, when he starts hitting like he did last year in the playoffs, it's only going to be that much scarier. Granted, they beat the Angels and the Twins, but they still had a great week. So
got to beat who's on your schedule.
Yes, true. So outside of the Rays, I would say the Astros would be my hot team.
Yeah, they had a really good week. I mean, you mentioned taking some from the Red Sox there. I mean, the A's though are staying hot. As the Astros, we talked about this. Could they get hot and kind of pull away from this? And they're at least pulling away to almost confirm they're going to be in the playoffs. But I mean, still, you're taking care of who's on your schedule, and you can't really be upset with that. But I mean, shout out to a couple guys that are stepping up while some other guys have been injured, like Alex Bregman. A huge year for him. He's hit 30 home runs now. He's 3 RBI away from getting to 100. He's a point below 300. He's on base percentage over 400, slugging percentage over 560. So huge for him. George Springer, Yori Gurriel, Marwin Gonzalez. I mean, those are names that you remember from the playoffs last year. Bregman obviously had a big playoffs too, but if you remember last year, he got into a Twitter argument with some guy that was saying it'd be good for the Astros to trade him, and Bregman got a little offended by it, as one might if you're a starter on a top American League team. And then he goes out, has the playoffs that he does, and he followed that up with an awesome season. So, I mean, he's just continuing that. He has the highest WAR on the team of 7.5. So good for him. And I think, a lot of those guys, the usual suspects, if you will, have a lot of their shouts too, but give a guy some credit while we have a chance.
Yeah. And a team that has been producing all year, but it really has been the Red Sox unprecedented season that has overshadowed Houston. They still in their own right have the best record in Major League Baseball after the Red Sox, and would be the best team in baseball if the Red Sox weren't on a historic pace. So
yeah, no, that's a really good point, actually. So I have an update on the Athletics Stadium. This is an article that was published a couple of weeks ago in the San Francisco Times. So they're going to have 2 different firms helping to design the new Oakland Athletics ballpark. Bjark Ingels Group, also known as BIG, they're from Copenhagen, and the Gensler Group, which is from San Francisco, are going to help out with both. BIG has done a lot. They're going to be the lead design. It's all privately financed, which that's pretty nice. It's going to be either near Howard Terminal, which I'm not sure where that is, or near the Coliseum. But Gensler has helped with designing the new Golden State Warriors arena and the A's new training complex in Mesa, Arizona, which shout out to Mesa, ran through there on my marathon that I ran last year. Beautiful, beautiful town. But yeah, so that's the update. It sounds like it's either going to be right near where the current place is. I don't know where Howard Terminal is. I didn't Google Maps that, but cool that it's privately financed. Good job on the A's for not using taxpayer dollars to kind of build something up, especially if I guess with a new stadium, they wouldn't have some sort of move like the Raiders would have, but good on them. It sounds like too that they're going to try to incorporate some classic ballpark style. The line that I read is that there's a signature in parts of classic ballparks that they want to incorporate to deliver the ethos of either Fenway Park or Wrigley Field. So it sounds like it's pretty cool.
So are they going to copy the monster?
No, I think just like sort of like how Citizens Bank Park was designed to look like a classic ballpark. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Citizens Bank Park looks the same as everyone else got it.
They were one of the first ones in 2004.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
We beat the Cardinals to doing it. We did it for. I mean, maybe San Francisco did it first, but
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah,
I'm just giving you a hard time. All right. Hopefully they'll put a home run thing in their outfield like the Marlins did.
Or a fucking. Do you think they would steal something? What would be the Oakland version of the Apple in New York that the Mets have?
It's a great question. Do we think maybe Alcatraz? Do we think Oakland's just not a good sports town?
Well, I mean, they have the Warriors.
Yeah, fair. All right.
I mean, like Warriors fans when they still had that weird like Aztec-looking Warrior, like those fans, not like the Silicon Valley ones that jumped in when Steph Curry started being good.
Fans,
like those guys are like black hole Raider type hardcore fans.
That's true. When Baron Davis was on the team, yeah. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it.
Jordy, let's keep this show rolling here. We're on such a roll right now.
Top players of the week.
Give me your Roy Hobbs American League top hitter of the week.
Yeah, so my top hitter of the week is going to be Mr. Utility Man himself, the Japanese Babe Ruth Shohei Ohtani, who had himself a fantastic week, on top of being told that he had to get Tommy John surgery and won't pitch in 2019. Ohtani hits 4 bombs, 10 ribbies. He scored 8 runs himself, had a batting average of 474. That is 9 hits, 19 ABs. He walked 4 times for a on base percentage, of 565. He stole a couple bases as well. He did get caught a couple times, but that'll happen. So I mean, got to give the man some shout outs. He's been pretty exciting to watch throughout the year, and he hasn't missed a beat since coming back for the Angels.
So is he their everyday DH now?
Yeah, he must be. I mean, I'll take a look at his game log and see what we got.
Well, he's got 19 plate appearances.
Yeah, 19 ABs, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, he definitely has to be.
Maybe a day off here and there, yeah.
Yeah. Great pick, Jordy. That's easily, he definitely had a great week. One of the better ones in all of baseball. I'm going to go with Alex Bregman from the Houston Astros. You just mentioned him.
Yeah, you meant.
9 RBIs, 3 home runs, 6 runs scored himself, hitting 476. Great week from him, from a team that's peaking at the right time, and hopefully they slow down just in time for the Red Sox series. But
no.
one can dream. Honorable mention, do you have any for the American League? I got a couple.
I was going to ask you, did you not want to go homer and throw Bogarts up there?
Well,
is he an honorable mention?
I figured they lost 2 out of 3, so
okay. Yeah.
But my honorable mention, Jordy, was going to be Adrian Beltre.
Oh, very good call.
Smashed 4 home runs this week.
Yeah, that's a big week from him.
7 RBIs.
I have one that is a little glaring as well. That one of us should have picked.
Yeah,
the sneaky AL MVP. He might backdoor his way into this title from your boy JD, Francisco Lindor.
I know.
Big week from him.
Yeah, Mookie Betts is going to win the MVP, but yeah, Francisco Lindor had a huge week.
You think Mookie would get it over JD Martinez?
Yeah, he plays way better defense.
All right.
I don't know.
I want JD to win the Triple Crown. That's why.
It's tough because we talked about it a couple weeks ago how the two of them are stealing votes from each other, and it's tough to give Mookie the MVP when he's not the best hitter on his team, but he might as well be because he makes everything go. When he's in the lineup, when he's hitting first, he makes everything go. So, granted, JD hit a 3-run home run last night, which helped them win the game, but Mookie was on base for that to happen. The reason why Mookie's RBI numbers are down is because he's hitting first, right? The bottom of the order is not getting on, but he's still putting up pretty good numbers. So
yeah,
good.
So you're saying if Lindor wins, he'd be like Woodrow Wilson?
Nice.
Yeah, you get that reference.
A little history reference. I love it, Jordy.
A little history reference there, yeah.
Good for you, Jordy. Give me your National League hot player of the week, and if you don't say, well, we'll see what you got.
Oh, ho, ho. Man, some threats here. Yikes. I was going to go with Trevor Story.
Nice.
From the Colorado Rockies, mashed 5 homers. He had 7 hits. That's why I started saying 9 RBI, 8 strikeouts, which was a little bit much, but he had 3 stolen bases. A nice little week from him. We mentioned the Rockies; they're staying hot. Their offense is producing when they need to, and Story's a big part of that. I mean, he led the team in ribbies, and he led the National League almost. Jonathan Schoop of the Brewers did, but he didn't have the best week batting, so I didn't pick him. But yeah, Story, huge week from him, and kind of a hot and cold player, but when he's hot, he's hot.
Yeah, I debated back and forth between Bryce Harper and Marcell Ozuna, 2 guys I know you hate.
No, I like Ozuna. I like Ozuna a lot.
So I'm going to go with Ozuna because he also had 5 home runs and batted .385, much better than Story, but he only, most of those home runs were solo home runs. So the reason why I wanted to give it to Harper, because Harper had 7 RBI, only 2 home runs, 1 stolen base, and 6 runs scored himself. It
12 walks.
Yeah, it might be too late for Bryce Harper, but he's essentially now playing for a contract. So if he can raise his averages and raise his numbers here in the last month and a half, when minor league pitching is on the mound, especially versus his team, he'll help get himself paid. But Marcell Ozuna would be mine.
No, that's a really good pick. And to give everybody an idea, Bryce Harper is 8 for 21 over the first 9 days of September, and that's .381 batting average, but he has 14 walks. We saw this a couple of years ago where Harper just gets walked and walked and walked. And I know the Cubs are a team that really like to do that when they play the Washington Nationals, because they want no part of them, especially when the Cubs are playing at Nationals ballpark. So that's a big part of it. But I mean, the Cardinals were doing it a lot too, but the Cubs in 3 of that, it was supposed to be a 4-game series. 3 of those games, they walked him 6 total times, Greg.
Dang.
And they won it bad. He had in the 6-5 loss yesterday or on Saturday was a home run. So Harper Dandy. I don't know if that makes sense. But you just went through your hot player of the week. Any cold players or any honorable mentions you got?
Yeah, National League. Ronald Acuna
Jr.
3 stolen bases.
Yeah, that's big.
That's huge. You had mentioned over a month ago is the idea of getting on base, and is everyone just trying to hit home runs? Is getting on base and stealing bases lost art? But it's good to see these young guys like Mookie Betts, like Francisco Lindor, like Robert.
The Mets used a hit and run to beat the Phillies the other day, or not to beat, but to continue scoring on the Phillies.
Yeah, so that's awesome. And Acuna Jr. also stealing bases. So hit and run, that's awesome. That's huge. The Red Sox tried to do that a couple of times too, but it doesn't work out. So,
Greg, should we be worried about Christian Yelich? He only batted .300 last week.
Definitely not. You got anything?
We should probably also mention Mike Trout went 9 for 16. He did not play every single game last week, but pretty good week from him. 2 homers, 5 ribbies. But the Angels are pretty.
Sam Darnold just threw a pick 6 for his first throw, and then in the
oh no.
A pick.
Oh no! I play the Lions defense. Oh no! Oh no!
No better way to start.
Oh, it's 7:15. If you can't tell, the game just started. Oh my god. Oh man, I will talk all about this on this week's Fun V Tailgate. Oh man, you gotta love it. Also shout out because we were talking about the Phillies, and I know we really use the Phillies talk there, but I got to give a shout out in terms of National League hot players. Not the hottest streak, considering how hot and cold the Phillies offense has been, but Carlos Santana's had himself a nice September. He's starting to really come around, and I know I've been one of the last people on that mountain of really valuing how often he does get on base via the walk, but he batted .320 last week. He had 3 homers, 5 ribbies. He scored 5 runs himself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he can really start turning it up and start using that veteran presence, I think that could really help out with the Phillies. We've gone through their schedule a million times, so we don't need to jump into Phillies talk. I do have a bleacher creature for the Phillies.
Whoa. Are you glossing over pitchers of the week?
No. I'm just saying as a hint for later. I do as a teaser for later. I have a bleacher creature for the Phillies. But, yeah, let's move over to pitchers of the week, Greg.
All right, Jordy, give me your pitcher of the week.
My National League, not Roy Hobbs, Billy Chappell, starter of the week, is going to be Max Scherzer. Pitched twice this week, had 22 strikeouts over 16 innings. He let up a number of runs. His ERA starting to, quote, inflate a little bit. He let up 6 runs over those 16 innings. That's an ERA of 3.38, a whip of 0.88. Only 14 hits, only 1 walk to that 22 strikeouts. So really, continuing to pound the case for his Cy Young candidacy. So, it's a little too late for the Nationals, but it's definitely a good time for him to heat up, especially with DeGrom and Nola doing what they've been doing. Nola had a loss last week, so we'll see how they go.
I think DeGrom's definitely deserving. My hot player for the National League or pitcher for the week is another guy who deserves to be in the conversation, and that's Robbie Ray.
Yep.
2 starts, 0 earned runs, 16 strikeouts.
I had 2 earned runs for him.
Sorry. That's what I meant. 0. Whoa.
The only 0 that I have is a loss. No losses.
16 Ks, 0 holds, 0 saves.
There you go.
But
we'll blame ESPN.
1.14 ERA. So good for him. Good week for him. What do you got, Jordy? What's next?
For American League, I am going to go with Mike Clevinger of the Cleveland Indians. We talk about their rotation a ton, and we talk about, the main guys in there, but Clevinger, he's obviously hung around for a while. He even got a loss last week, but his ERA was still at 3, a whip of 0.83. That is really is second to Robbie Ray and Ronaldo Lopez of the White Sox in terms of whip. He, 19 Ks, 1-1 on the week, and really another guy that helps out with that depth and the Cleveland starting end to help them. And if they want to use him as a longer term guy, if they want to use him as number 3, really depends on how Trevor Bauer comes back in a couple of weeks. But we will see how Clevinger does.
Great choice, Jordy. Yeah. Especially because is he a guy that's going to be moved to the bullpen come playoffs? So
exactly. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the Indians decide to do and how they go for everything.
He's good. He could easily do
very
well.
Good. Yeah.
I'm going to go Edwin Diaz, the relief pitcher from the Seattle Mariners. 3 appearances, 3 saves.
Already jumping to your wild Ricky Vaughn wild thing of the week, but
0 earned runs, 6 Ks. The reason why the real person you should give it to is Tanaka, who went 8 innings, 1 win, 0 earned, 10 Ks. But I refuse to give Yankee pitcher any hot player of the week, so I'm going to go Edwin Diaz, closer for the Seattle Mariners.
Homer. So that's all serious. So I'm going to count that as your Ricky Vaughn wild thing relief pitcher of the week for Edwin Diaz.
I have a relief pitcher of the week.
You have another one? Another one you want to spotlight?
Yeah, but please do your thing.
So mine is going to be Ryan Butcher of the Oakland Athletics. 4 holds and a win. He got a decision in all 5 appearances that he had. Just awesome to see. I mean, he even let up a run in one of those holds. I mean, only a couple strikeouts, but this guy, I mean, we can't say it enough. They also have this guy, Lou Trevino, very close to Lee Trevino. Shout out to other guys that have won golf tournaments in Philadelphia. But, I mean, their bullpen is just getting hot at the right time. You said it, sneakily one of the better bullpens in the American League. And, you know, we saw how valuable that was in the wild card game last year. So we'll see what the Oakland Athletics can do as they keep going forward. And I mean, watch out. They might be able to overtake the Yanks.
I mean, and it's really overtaking them to host, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Great pick, Jordy.
I try.
That was I mean, who's better than you?
I don't know. Who's got it better than us? Who is your other relief pitcher of the week, Greg?
Cody Allen.
Oh, good pick. Really good pick.
Cleveland Indians, their bullpen continues and will continue to remain a strong point for them. 4 innings pitched, 1 save, 7 Ks, and 2 holds, 0 earned runs this week. Unbelievable week. Good for him.
Shout out. I know you don't like to give the Yankees shout outs, but shout out to Zach Britton, really being all that the Yankees traded for and more. He had 2 saves and 2 holds and 2 appearances last week. Let's move over to the National League, though. Greg, who do you got for National League reliever of the week?
You want me to do National League? All right. Very easy for me, Jordy. Corey Knebel from the Milwaukee Brewers.
All right.
4 innings pitched, 1 save, 1 K, 1 hold, 0 earned runs. Good week for him. He, previously mentioned the Brewers sort of going the wrong way, but he certainly is a good.
Brewers going the right way.
Sorry, the Brewers going the right way, and he certainly is a huge reason why that's happening. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's a really good pick. I'm going to pick the man who rode the bullpen cart in his first appearance as an Arizona Diamondback. That is Brad Ziegler, their setup man that they got from the Marlins earlier this year. 0.0 ERA in 4 appearances, 3 strikeouts, 3 holds, and a whip of 0.38. So really, really nice week from him. Could be a huge asset for the Diamondbacks and their playoff chances going forward. And, I mean, you just got to be able to close the door after he gets the hold, but you got to be able to hold the lead in those late middle innings as well.
Great choice.
I appreciate it.
You're killing it right now.
Just trying, man. Trying to live the dream.
So you said you had a bleacher creature for us.
Yeah, so my bleacher creature, Greg, if you have not been noticing, I mentioned golf in Philadelphia. If you're paying attention to the PGA Tour, you notice that they finished on Monday afternoon. That's because we've been getting hit with a tropical storm here in the really the whole Northeast is, but Philadelphia has been getting hit with it a lot, especially over the weekend. And somebody on the Phillies grounds crew decided to take the tarp off and leave it out or leave it off the field while this storm was coming through. So the field's absolutely soaked coming into Monday afternoon. The Phillies are hosting the Washington Nationals. We mentioned this before. So the Phillies need to figure out some way to dry the field off, Greg. What do you think they did to come out and dry it off?
Let's see. My first thought was they rolled it of some kind. My second thought was they took a leaf blower.
I'm going to take your leaf blower, Greg, and I'm going to take however many 1-ups I need to get to a flamethrower. They took flamethrowers on the dirt to really fucking get this thing going. Yeah. It looks like a fire extinguisher, but instead it has instead of just being like a hose, it has like a big funnel at the end of it. And I guess it shoots out. It had the liquid in the canister is obviously gas, and I guess it ignites to spray down on it, almost like a torch, and just to really just get this fucking dirt dry because of how waterlogged it is. But shout out to the Phillies grounds crew. I mean, it sounds like they're getting creative. Maybe it's a stay woke, and they wanted to use it. They wanted to use these flamethrowers really bad. Somebody had had the idea to invest in them over the weekend, maybe after a couple cocktails, watching the Eagles win the Super Bowl, and thought this was a good idea. So maybe they wanted to keep the tarp off purposefully, but that's definitely an interesting story right now, and kind of a weird way to continue to progress the narrative of September Phillies baseball.
Great choice, Jordy.
You got any interesting stories you saw over the week?
So without getting too controversial, I wanted to get into the whole Serena Williams thing.
Oh yeah. Do you want to do schedule for next week and then jump into that as kind of a wrap up?
No.
Okay.
I'll be quick. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
I saw it live, and when I first saw it, my thought was not a good look for Serena, right? She was complaining to the ref, and you could argue because watching the match, she got absolutely annihilated in the first set. So she was losing pretty easily to this 20-year-old, and I don't disagree, and I don't watch enough tennis, so I don't know, but I definitely believe that women get treated differently, and by the fact that women, let's say a woman gets married and her name changes at Wimbledon, they still call her by her maiden name as opposed to her married name.
Oh, I did not know that. That's kind of messed up.
Yes, exactly. So
yeah, it's not cool.
Exactly. So for me, I definitely see that side of things, and I definitely understand that there's a disparity, and there's not women tennis players are probably treated unfairly, and for her, you're talking about the greatest probably female tennis player, definitely this generation, and for them not to, I don't want to say make an exception, but at least give her a chance as opposed to doing 1, 2, 3, you're out automatically, right? You gotta believe that there has to be some sort of superstar treatment. But my gripe with Serena is that she did it while she was getting smoked.
Yeah, that's definitely the bad look on it, is that she was getting her ass handed to her. But it is definitely one thing where you saw, like, I guess, like, I didn't watch the match at all. I just saw it after the fact. And I guess it looked like it was pretty obvious he was saying something to her, the coach, and the coaching stuff. But it was really weirdly handled by that umpire and all that. And kind of, if you're just going to kind of be this stonewall at it and you have those moments, it was a very weird situation. And kind of, especially in the finals of something, you're going to let that be what dictates it, especially when you decide to you deduct her a game. I didn't like that. And I didn't like that whole aspect of it, because it definitely deflates a lot of it. I felt really bad for the girl who won, who feels like she needs to apologize. Like,
exactly. Like,
she was getting
she's a 20-year-old. She just won the arguably, it could in theory be the biggest win of her career. She's a 20-year-old, and
she's the first Japanese tennis player to win a major.
Yeah, and she's getting booed. That's just not right, because she did nothing wrong. I could get it. You could boo her if she did something wrong, but she did nothing wrong. So that would be my bleacher creature, and it's just not a good situation, not a good look. And the U.S., the tennis, whatever, professional tennis is not in the right here, because they came out and fined Serena, and they're not doing themselves any favors by isolating their best player, their most marketable player, if you will.
Well, and especially after the whole French Open decides that she can't wear the cat suit thing,
right? Because she has to for medical reasons, and it's a whole thing. So they're not doing themselves any favor by isolating their best player and most marketable player. So from that perspective, but I just had to. I'd be fine if Serena did this, but you can't do it when you're losing.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I guess I never really realized, I guess she'd done it before, like maybe like 5 years ago, and she hadn't really done it for a few years. So People thought that we were past that, and I guess that's part of where some people's frustration with it was too.
And here's the thing: is she thought that people are going to be mad, people are going to think that she was cheating, and she thought she was going to have a negative perception about her because of cheating. But no one thinks that getting a signal from your coach is cheating. So there was no need for her to even start the whole thing.
If you think that, don't ever watch a basketball game.
True that. Yeah. All right, Jordy. Week ahead. Sorry to.
No, that's all good. The only reason why I asked was so that we could leave it for the end, because I'm glad we talked about it. It's just that's the only reason why, to keep the baseball as one and then other sports. But all good. I'm glad we got to talk about it.
Yeah, so that'd be my Bleacher Creature. You had mentioned Cubs and Brewers. Is that your only matchup you're looking forward to during the week, or do you have something else?
That's my National League one. American League, I'm going to look at the Red Sox because they're close to clinching. You might have the actual number, but I think their magic number for just a playoff spot is very close to the low single digits. So, I mean, I'm just interested in watching that. I know all the other teams that are in the playoffs aren't really playing any sort of huge matchups as I'm looking through it. Houston plays Detroit, Cleveland plays Tampa, which I guess that's big, but just because of how hot Tampa's been. But New York playing the Twins, Seattle playing San Diego, and they're basically out of it. So, yeah, I'm probably going to look at the Red Sox just because you will officially have the first team into the 2018 postseason.
Yeah, so the Red Sox are one win
from officially clinching a spot
from a playoff spot. Yeah. Sorry, magic number 1. So if the Yankees lose tonight, I believe. Yeah, so the Yankees lose tonight,
or just a playoff spot.
They're 11. Their magic number is 11 for the division.
Okay. The magic 1 for a spot. Okay.
The magic number is 1 for playoffs. So, so if the Yankees lose, I'm pretty sure they clinch a playoff spot tonight.
Okay.
If the
wouldn't it be? It would be whoever's like basically in last.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
I don't know if it's the Yankees that they have to worry about for a playoff spot.
Okay, fair. But there's someone saying there's a chance they could get it tonight, even though they're not playing.
I'm trying to see who's like the lowest like team that could catch up to them. Maybe it's if the A's lose, because it would make like
it would be a
basically you have to worry about how much they're there.
It would be like the Rays or the Mariners, right?
Well, I'm just trying to think like. Because they clinch a spot by basically saying we could be the 1 through 5 seed. So the reason why I said the A's is they're the 5 seed. So basically, are they so far ahead of the current 5 seed that they couldn't possibly be caught by them? You know what I mean?
6 seed, yeah.
Or 6 seed, yeah. So it'd be, I guess the
6 seed.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, never mind. You're right. Yeah, so it'd be the Mariners. I guess if the Mariners lose tonight, then you're in.
Yeah. Well, the Mariners are players. Maybe it's the Rays, but yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So yeah, great choices there, Jordy. I'm looking at the Arizona Diamondbacks, Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, it's big.
Huge series. So that's my National League for this during the week. And American League. I mean, I want to say Cleveland, Tampa Bay, but there's really not that many good American League matchups going on this week. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's really the most intriguing one, Cleveland and Tampa. Tampa, I mean,
not a ton during the week. We get a little more exciting in the weekend. Right.
Cleveland's already in, and Tampa's, I guess, still fighting for a spot. So maybe that. But what do you got for the weekend? What's on tap?
So the weekend, the big one that I'm looking at is Houston hosting the Diamondbacks. I mean, in a crazy, bizarro National League West world, that could be Westworld. Could be a potential World Series matchup if the Diamondbacks get hot, a la the 2007 Colorado Rockies, and just go on a fucking tear. But I mean, it's just an intriguing matchup. You got Robbie Ray versus Charlie Morton on Friday. Saturday, you got Zach Godley versus Keuchel, and Sunday You have Greinke versus Verlander. So really 3 great starting pitching matchups. But if the Diamondbacks are on, it could be a really intriguing series as well.
Yeah, no, great choice. And that was your National League, so we're starting National League.
I'll use that as I'll use it, I guess, because an American League team's hosting American League. NL, I'll use the Nationals and the Braves, mainly just because the Braves and in theory, if the Nationals continue to be hot, they could make some sort of thump in terms of playing spoiler to the Braves, and the Phillies are hosting the Marlins, so that's just a little selfish pick from me.
I love it. National League, I'm going to go the Reds at Chicago Cubs.
Okay.
The Cubs, we mentioned it, playing 500. They really need to,
and don't play well against the Reds either.
Right. They need to take 2 out of 3. And Cincinnati, we've mentioned it a couple times in the last month or so. Their pitching has really turned around almost since the Harvey trade, and they're starting to hit the ball a little bit. Currently leading the Dodgers 4-0, 4-1 here. So their record isn't showing it, they're a tough out. That's a tough team to beat.
Yeah.
My American League is going to be the Mets at the Red Sox. Huge there. Mets traveling over here, and more so just because the Mets I don't want to say have been my American League team, or National League team, but I am going to the game Friday, so I will be able to get some stadium snacks.
Oh, there we go. Oh, you get to see Noah Syndergaard.
Noah Syndergaard Friday, yes, and then DeGrom Saturday. So
DeGrom Porcello, what a matchup there. The one that we missed, Greg, was L.A. and St. Louis. That's going to be a fun one this weekend.
Yeah, and it's
that's the ESPN game on Sunday
in St. Louis, right? Yeah.
Again, I'm not sure what the Sunday night game is for the NFL, but maybe a good channel flipper.
Another reason why the Red Sox is because Chris Sale's return.
Yes, that's actually a really good point. Against Jason Vargas, who that's where I had a lot of high hopes for after he had such a stellar year last year and never really could put it together.
Red Sox also 2 games away from 100, so 2 wins away from 100.
100 watch in effect.
So good on you, mate. Jordy, what do you got to wrap us up here?
Nothing too much. I mentioned the golf. They wrapped up this week at Aronimink. It's the first time that the BMW had been played on the East Coast. It had traditionally been in the Midwest. I believe it's the successor to the Western Open, an old tournament that was a big deal. Now it's become the BMW and the FedEx Cup era. You and I talked a little bit off air, but Justin Rose lost in the playoff to Keegan Bradley. It was Keegan's first win in 6 years. JR, big guy in Philly. He won at Aronimink 8 years ago, won at Marion, obviously, 5 years ago. I have a lot of family friends that have met him at Marion and said he could not be a nicer guy, like the most genuine person that you've ever met. Marion wanted to offer him a, honorary membership for winning, and Justin Rose said, "No, I'm going to be a dues paying member." Paid the initiation fee, which is no small feat at Marion, and pays dues every month. And he shows up every fall after the FedEx Cup and the Ryder Cup are all done with his buddies. And they apparently all of his buddies wear the exact same outfit that he wore the Sunday he won at Marion. But big shout out to Keegan. He definitely has grinded over a lot in the last 6 years. He obviously won a major 7 years ago in 2011. Tiger got close, and he obviously got named to the Ryder Cup last week. Ryder Cup's in a couple weeks, or in three or 4 weeks, I think it is. But 2 weeks we got the Tour Championship. The one thing, Greg, that I know that Brooks Koepka didn't. Most of his wins this year came in the majors. I'm trying to think if his third win, his only non-major, his 4 total wins, 3 majors and 1 non-major, and I can't remember if that non-major was this year or not. But he's won 2 majors and he's 6th place in the FedEx Cup rankings. And the reason why that's a big deal is if you're ranked 1 through 5, you automatically win the FedEx Cup if you win the Tour Championship. I think it's just kind of crazy to me that if you're going to use this as a season-long rankings and you're going to weight the playoffs more heavily, you should have the majors up there too. I think it's kind of crazy that he came in 8th place in the first round of the playoffs and moved down in the standings. I just think that's kind of nuts. I mean, there's been a lot of different talks to not have a situation like they had last year where Xander Schauffele won the Tour Championship, but Justin Thomas still won the FedEx Cup itself, and how to fix that. I have a lot of different theories, but we could get into that another time, of how to make it almost like a true playoff or whatnot. But definitely a fun weekend. It was out here in Philadelphia at Ronnemank. Never played the course, but I've caddied it. And Matty D went, and he posted a lot of stuff on his own social media, not on the Thunderblog. So if you follow him, go check that out.
Geez.
Yeah, I know. I texted him too. He's like, "Oh, my phone's gonna die. I'll do it later." And then he forgot. So Matt, there's a little bit of shade thrown at you. It's a little deserved. Got to air the grievances out on the air.
The people got to know. The
people got to know. If you don't follow Matt, they're missing it. The people that don't follow Matt are missing it.
I don't follow Matt. I would love to be able to see it.
Yeah, I'll tell him you're upset. I'll say you're upset.
I'm getting upset.
Yeah, I'll say that you were there and you did. Anyway, I'm sure people probably tuned out now, so they're just hearing us do our ramblings. But if you are still here, make sure that you go follow us on all of our social media. Thunder BLG on Twitter, Thunderblog Sports on Instagram and Facebook, thunderblogsports.com, obviously the site where you can find all of our crazy shenanigans. Greg, I appreciate it. I'm glad this despite the weather, I thought that would fuck up my internet because my internet always falls apart. But I'm glad this all worked out and we were able to squeeze it in. But I'm glad football's back. I'm glad baseball's heating up.
Yeah, I got one final thing. Listened back a couple of pods ago and realized I have a couple sayings that I repeat all the time, and those are more space fillers than anything else.
Okay.
So I'm sorry to all those people if I sound like I'm repeating myself when I say things like 100% or not for nothing or Jordy.
Some people have it.
So hopefully
I have those. I say yeah, but a lot.
Hopefully I didn't do that this week. I tried to consciously not do it, but I might have. And hopefully, Jordy, if people hear this, they go back and re-listen to the whole thing so they can tell us what they tell us if I did it.
We should come up with some sort of prize to give out somebody of like
nice.
We can count whatever word we want to pick.
I love it. Great
thoughts for the next 100. As we wrap up episode 101.
Send us your thoughts.
Send us your thoughts. Leave them in the comments. Greg, Sox. Man, I appreciate it.
Go Sox.
Go Phils. That's going to do it for us here on the Bullpen Cart. And go Birds.